Good morning. This morning I'm going to cover the 2017 Assignment 1, Semester 1, Question 2. I'm going to read through and then explain to you some of the processes I would use or the steps I'd use to try and solve this question. It says here in Question 2, write a program that converts a date, day, month, to Julian format. The Julian format is the day of the year. The DD date represents, e.g., the Julian format of 2703, that is, the 27th of March, is 31 plus 28 plus 27. That is 31 days in January plus 28 days in February plus 27, which gives a Julian date of 86. And as you know, there's 300, I think it's 366 days in a year. So that's what those other numbers should add up to. Use the following definition for the number of days in each month. Int days per month is 12, and then it gives you the array of 12 numbers. Okay. You can ignore leap years. The program must ask for two dates. Read the day and month of each date separately. It must then convert both dates to their Julian format. Display them, and then display the number of days difference between the two dates. The program must check which is the smaller date before subtracting. The user may enter the dates in any order. Verify that the dates entered are legitimate dates using the assert function and the above defined array. 31/6 is not a valid date. Alright, so where do we start with this? It feels like an overload of information. Well, the first thing I would start with is noticing that they want the assert function. And as you may or may not know, the assert function requires you to have the COS1512 include. So I'm going to first start with the standard include, which is hash include input output stream, IO stream, okay, and then I'm going to include the CAssert. There we go, include, okay, and then I'm going to say using namespace standard. Alright, so, and then obviously my int main, because that's where my main program will go. Now the next thing, if I have a look, I see, oh, they're giving me an array over here. So why not copy this array and add that to this snippet of code. Okay, so there we go. Now I've added some stuff. Okay, now the next thing I'm thinking about is they've told us that we need to write a program that converts a date, which is in the format of day, of DD and So what I would do is, because these represent two numbers, I'm going to create two integer variables. I'm going to call the one int day and the next one month. Okay. I'm going to obviously ask the user to please enter the first date, and I'm going to give them an example of the format that I'm after so that they know this is what they should be entering, how they should be entering it. Okay, and then I'm going to obviously take their two inputs that they're going to enter in the same format that I've asked them to enter it in. Alright, so now I've managed to get that information. Now they say that I need to also get another date from the people. So I may as well copy exactly what I've got here and duplicate it. Because you got to do 2 dates. Okay. So instead of first, we obviously want it to be the second date. So now we have our calculation for taking 2 dates from the user, which is what they asked here. The program must ask 2 dates. Read the day and month of each date separately. And that is exactly what we've done. But now we have to convert both dates to their Julian format and display them. Okay, so how should we do that? If I've got 2 dates and I need to do a temporary conversion of these dates, what's the best format? I would suggest we use a function. So I'm going to create a function, and since I need it to show me a number such as 86, like shown over here, I'm going to create the function to be an integer, and I'm going to call it calc Julian. Okay, and my Julian function is going to take the 2 integer variables that I'm going to pass it. So int day and int month, and it's now going to perform some calculations on this. So now we want to know what calculations are we going to perform. Well, the first thing we need to do is try and get a variable that will hold this value of 31 plus 28 plus 27. Okay, so I'm going to create the integer variable called total days. Okay, 0, and then I'm going to say that it must give us the total days based on our we're going to go up to months, whatever the month is, less 1. So this is where the calculation gets a bit more tricky. I'm going to go for int I equals 0, because I want it to start from 0. And then I'm going to say while I is less than month minus 1, because we're starting at 0. So we got to, whatever we pass, and I plus plus. Okay, then we're going to add up each one of these days, okay, to give us the total value. So we say total days plus equals, and we use our value over here, and we pass it whatever value I is at present, and then we're going to use our same total days and add them to the day, and we will return this calculation that we're going to do. Alright, so now we have our function that's going to temporarily do our Julian dates for us. Okay. Now what do we need to do? The next thing is we realize that we've got a cert and we've never used a cert. So how are we going to use our assert? Well, first we need to perform an assert on this first calculation and make sure that the days that are entered and the months are valid. So how do we do that? We add our assert function here, and we're basically saying almost as if we're saying if day is greater or equal to 1, because you can't get a 0 day, and the day is less than or equal to our function is per month, our constant I should say, and then we're using the same value as what we're using here, month less 1, because remember that in arrays we're always starting with 0, so that's why you have to we basically, this is a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it goes up like that. Okay, then we have our first assert, and then we can also use that same assert to check for months, because this one is the one that checks for the day per month. Okay, yeah. So let's go assert month greater than equal to 1 and month less than or equal to 12. So now we have our assert function that will check the values. So where was it here? It says here it must convert to Julian. The program must check which is the smaller date. Okay, it must convert. Where does it say you must check that it's a valid date? This Julian format, user date. Verify that the dates entered are legitimate dates using the assert function and the above defined array. And then, as they say, 31.6 is not a valid date. Okay, so now we need this assert function to perform on both dates that are entered. So we're using that. And now the next part is to perform our Julian conversion. And how do you perform a Julian conversion? Is we're going to use this function, and what we should do is create two integer variables that will hold the values of our returned function. So if we go here, and I'm going to call this one first, and the second one second. Okay, and then what we do is we say first equals, we're going to pass our function, and then our two variables that we're accepting over here, which are the day and the month. So we should be able to go ahead, day, month, like that. Remember our semicolon, and then over here we go second equals this. Alright, so now we've got our conversions to the Julians dates for both calculations, and now we just need to output and calculate the difference. So how do we do that? Well, first they said we must test which format is the first one. So let's go ahead and tell the user So now we're going to perform my calculation. And so, yeah, okay. So we should have actually also, we want to also output this first date for the user. I'm surprised. Could have just put it in the function here, but anyway. First and Julian format of the first date is first. Okay, so if what we're doing is we're saying that if the first is less than the second, then we would say the second minus the first. Okay, that will give us the difference. Else, the difference equals first minus second. I'm just going to put that in the right format there. And now we've done our calculation. So basically we're saying there that, yeah, if the first is less than the second, then we take the second one less the first. Else, if the second one is greater than the first one, then we're going to use the first less the second. And now we need to just output the result to the user. So we would say cout difference dates are and if you want to the difference between the dates are, and then that's it, end L. And obviously we return 0 so that it can execute. So this is the solution, and let's go and execute it. Difference doesn't like my second. I haven't specified the use of difference, which should have been specified here. Right, it's moaning about the difference. Let me just see what it says here. View logs. That was not declared. Forgetting my parentheses. Okay, there we go. Make sure there's a space there. Alright, so now my code executes. Please enter the first date. Let me try what they said, 31/6. You can see it tells you that the assert failed because it's not a valid number. Alright, and according to this function, what tests do we have? They don't really give us, but let's just generate our own then. Want to re-execute the code, and I'm going to try the 30th of the 6th. That's a valid one, and I'm going to make it the 30th of 11. And there we go. So there you've got the Julian format of the first date was 181. The Julian format of the second date is 334. The difference between the dates are 153. So I hope that this has helped you with assignment 1, question 2. Thank you for watching. Best of luck. Goodbye.